Okay, good morning. This week we are on Fowler Gilbert Business and a little bit of a mixed bag because we are at Stafford Show today, and at the same time we've got a load of Fowler Gilbert work going on at the local job, if you remember, that we've been to a couple of times. We'll start with that one. So, if you remember way back when, we went to the local job, which isn't far from where we are, and we had an existing building, or two existing buildings there, that we got to take down. We got to break down and break up the existing concrete and take the foundations out, and we put a brand new grain storage building up with the open end where we had the grain dryer that was going to go in. And then after that, if you remember, we then did some concreting works to sort of tie the existing yards in, concreted the floor in the main building. Later on, we then revisited one of the buildings that we took down. I called it a silk purse out of a sow's ear, but we re-erected one of the buildings that we took down and recladded that and basically made that a nice sort of machinery store, and that sort of finished that end of the yard off quite nicely. Well, we are now back again because the last piece of the puzzle really in the centre of the farmyard was these two existing buildings. Now, these buildings basically got old asbestos roofs, and there was probably more leaks in it than there was roof sheets. It looked a bit tatty in the middle of the yard, and ultimately the customer wanted it tidying up. So what we've done is we have removed the asbestos from the roof, and we've got rid of that. We've then, when we've got back down to the frame, we've altered the cleats and we've changed some of the purlins because everything was rotten. So we've replaced the purlins on the building. We put a new fibre cement roof on it, which a little bit different. They've got a variable pitch ridge on these roofs because the pitch wasn't suited really to a ridge capping of a standard pitch. And then once the roofs were on, we basically timber boarded around the sides of the building. So we've replaced the cladding, or what was asbestos cladding in places. We've replaced that with Yorkshire boarding or Castle boarding in places. We've redone the guttering at the same time. On the side then, there is a lean-to. Now that lean-to, we've knocked the walls out, and where we've knocked the walls out from, we've got some panels, we've got some doors, we've got some bits and bobs to go in. There's a bit of Castle boarding to go on. Not yet done that. And then additionally to that, we need some stone to go in before we do the concrete floor in that sort of area there. So before we do that, there was a pile of old rubble here. So again, we brought the crusher along to site. We've crushed that rubble up now. There's a little bit left to do, and we've got to go back with the breaker just to break the bigger bits up, and we can put that through the crusher. And then once we've done that, we can lay the stone in, get the panels fitted, sort the doors and the cladding out, and at the same time we can get that floor done. So like I say, I've just got to nip back and finish off the bits of crushing because I was there a few days ago doing the crushing works, but that was interrupted by the Stafford Show. So this here show is a show that we did just over 10 years ago. It was the first time we were here. We did it for 3 years on the bounce. We weren't positioned here. We were positioned mainly over in the area where everything was more going on by the side of the ring and once by the entrance. That was a far better positioning for us, but in all fairness to the show, we were a bit lastminute.com booking this because we hadn't really made our mind up what we were doing. Said in previous videos we were looking at sort of perhaps knocking a few of the bigger national shows out and concentrating more on the local county shows, and that was one of the reasons why we wanted to come and give this another go again. Because going back 10 years, the first time we come it was absolutely fantastic. The second year was okay. The third year for us it didn't really work, and it conflicted with another show at the time, a bigger national show. So that was why we ditched this and we moved on to Pastures New. For us now, as the Pastures New have sort of dwindled away with the footfall, we've decided to try the Stafford Show again, or the county shows again, Stafford being really the first one. But like I say, we were quite late booking. This was the last stand available, and we are a little bit tucked away in the far end. So yesterday was a bit of a quieter day, didn't really do the numbers to warrant us being here. Today, however, has been very different. The weather has been with us. It's the second day of the show, and it has been a good turnout. We've seen a lot of customers that we've worked for in and around the area, and at the same time we've took a fair level of inquiry, enough to warrant coming back again next year. So we're going to get this rebooked. We are going to try and reposition ourselves over the far side of the show stand, but ultimately it has been worth coming. But therefore, because we've been at the Stafford Show, that has meant that we haven't got a massive amount of content for this week's vid. So we're going to cut it off there. If you like what you've seen, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and we're going to leave you with a massive montage of works going on that local job, and at the same time the Stafford Show. There's loads going on here, and finish off with a little bit of cow porn, Clay. Not that sort of cow porn, Clayton.